point. I don't
No penalty goals under this?
Yeah, I just think it's ridiculous. You can win games with penalty goals, you can win games with field goals. Why would you change the rules after 80 minutes to decide a game?
David Gallup's still got to clear this. I think, by the way, there's no hope of this happening. Certainly not this season. I think it'll stay golden point for the rest of the year, but it's what the referee's boss wants to at least consider. Now, also at Parramatta, obviously, Jared Hayne, big story on Sunday, and it doesn't appear that Jared has done much terribly wrong, apart from, I suppose, be at King's Cross at 1 o'clock in the morning. And it begs the question...
It's not illegal.
Well, of course it's not. And it begs the question, what can be done? Because often you players, and we've all seen it, if we've been out with rugby league players, they can be abused and heckled by fans through no fault of their own. Is there an answer to all of this?
No, I don't think there is. You know, I think it's up to the players themselves to have that responsibility of whether they decide to go out or not. You know, it doesn't matter if you're going down the shops, there's always someone that's going to, you know, give you a gobful. So it's... whether it's in the cross or at your local pub, it's going to happen. But fortunately for me, I was around the good times when you could go out and have a good time and hang out with people and the fans and everyone, and no one really gave two hoots. But these days, you know, people are out there trying to provoke you and try and get in the paper.
Well, we even talked about it after the Benji Marshall thing early in the year, didn't we? Is it almost time some of the star players take security guards with them?
Yeah, no, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people have joked about it, Hindy, but, you know, is it up to the clubs? If the clubs are so worried about the merchandise that they got, as in the player, do the club organise someone to go out with them?
Well, that's, you know, I've been in Origin camps and Australian camps where we've had minders just to control that type of stuff. But it's a very difficult one because you can't stop grown-ups from going out and having a drink or going out and... like in that case where Haynes was out, not everyone was drinking that was involved in that incident or was reported in that incident. You know, they were out enjoying someone's birthday at a bar, and some of them weren't, you know, having drinks or alcohol. So it's a hard one. It's very tricky, but I think it goes back again to the player. If you want to put yourself in those types of areas, you know, be prepared that, you know, something may happen.
Now, Nathan, the Eels. You can look at it one of two ways. You're 3 points off the wooden spoon position, or you're now, 5 points out of the top 8 or thereabouts. It's been a frustrating season, I'm sure, for Parramatta fans and you. We've seen it on your face. You've had so many tight losses. How do you sum up your season so far?
Disappointing. Very disappointing. You know, we would have liked to have been definitely sitting nice and firm in the top 8, but, you know, what do? It's the NRL, and you have good seasons, you have bad seasons, and, you know, we're not playing... poor football, you know, we're not getting flogged every week or pumped every week.
This is just to cheer you up, by the way.
Yeah, it's great. We're losing some tight games, but, you know, I think we're building to something great, and hopefully that'll come next year.
Hindy, I'd like to go back to last week's game against the Bulldogs. When we did that game, actually, and you guys had enough ball to win 2 games. Is that the frustrating thing for you?
It is a bit frustrating, that, mate, yeah. You know, particularly early on in the game, we had plenty of ball early, but you know, to the credit of the Dogs, they defended very well, and they defended differently to how we thought they were going to defend. So it is a bit frustrating considering the personnel we have, you know, along with Hainsey and Casey Maguire and Rennie Matua now, so it can be a bit disappointing, yeah.
Mate, despite the 300 games, those field goal shots from the opposing teams in those last couple of weeks, it was still you chasing the field goals down. You're still hungry to try and shut it down, but unfortunately the result didn't go the way.
No, it didn't. You know, but I was at marker there, so that's probably the easiest place to try and charge down a field goal attempt is for marker.
You're making your 60th tackle, that's why.
Yeah, but, you know, again, I'm out there for 80 minutes, you know.
Hey, Hindy, does the wooden spoon scare you?
Yeah, it does, mate, yeah. And even more so because I'm the captain of the club and the team. You know, I don't want to be... You know, I don't want to look back on my career thinking I was the first captain in, you know, X amount of years to get the wooden spoon for a great club, but, you know, I can't remember the last time they ever got a wooden spoon.
The season hasn't come without any casualties. This week, Peter Sharp, gone. Mm-hmm. Did you see that coming at all, or was it a surprise?
That was a massive surprise. You know, Sharpie's, from where I'm sitting, you know, I thought was a great fit for the club. You know, I've been a fan of Sharpie since I've known him, and I was 18 in my first year of first grade. So, yeah, a huge disappointment. He's you know, along with, you know, Rocket Reddy as well. You know, I've known them both for a long time, and I think they've offered a lot to the club and the team.
All right, well, let's look ahead to this weekend. It doesn't get any easier for you against a team with a magnificent defence, and who shut you down earlier in the year at Amy Park taking on the Melbourne Storm, at home at least, at Parramatta Stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Everyone knows it's going to be a tough one. But, you know, the good thing about it is, you know, no one's expecting us to win. So
How do you get around their defence? I mean, it's been magnificent all year.
I will try a few different things to try and get around in the defence. But I think our more important thing is to really shut down Cameron Smith and Billy Slater and Cooper Cronk. So
Does it amaze you when you play against the Melbourne Storm, and they did it to you in the first round, they do it to a lot of other sides, they've got this amazing ability just to tick the scoreboard over. At the end of the day, last week, 26 points to 6, you go, gee, there wasn't that much in that.
Well, that's true. You know, you look at the way they play and they like to get involved in arm wrestles until, you know, their opposition team cracks, and then they just, you know, you'll try here and there, and, you know, all of a sudden they've put 40 points past you. So
They also seem, to me, to do probably better than any team in the comp, even allowing for how great Manly's been going and Saints. The little things, they don't seem to make little errors, stupid errors that so many times teams can look back on and think, if we cut that out, we would have won the game. They don't seem to do that any time.
That's going back to just grinding teams out. You know, they can frustrate teams into making mistakes, and I think that's what they're good at. Now, they just bore teams out of it sometimes and force errors from them.
You know, the amazing thing, I think, is that in the modern game, with all the interchange, with the 10-metre rule, the last 8 weeks, the last 8 games for the Melbourne Storm, only one team, the Bulldogs, has scored more than 8 points. That's an amazing stat. It's probably a daunting stat for you this week, I guess.
We're just making your night great, aren't we, Heidi?
I can't wait for Monday night footy,
Another 80 tackles, Heidi.
Well, the good news is there's plenty of good footy to come before you have to take the field, including tomorrow night, Friday night footy in Gosford, Blue Tongue Stadium, Manly taking on the West Tigers. And you've gone pretty well against both teams. You probably thought you should have beaten Manly, beaten in the last minute effectively, and you beat the West Tigers recently.
Yeah, we're unlucky. I'm not going to say an unlucky loss against Manly, a game we should have won, but their halves are on fire this year, and I think their back row, you know, their back row is probably one of the best in the competition, and that's where they tend to win a lot of their games through their forwards.
Heidi, a big game for the Tigers. I know they've won the last 2 games, but we've been waiting for them to kick-start their season. They need to do it against a highly ranked team. They need to do it tomorrow night to get their season going against Manly.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat, mate. You've been waiting for them to try and, you know, there's been a lot of hype about him this year, and they really haven't kicked on from what I've seen. But I think if Benji Marshall gets, you know, to do what he does well, and Gareth Ellis gets his hands on some ball, he's a handful. They'll give him a fair crack, but my tip's Manly.
Now, Heidi, we in the last 2 weeks, this week included, have had some wonderful hair on the show. Desi Hasler last week, you this week. But 7 Manly players have decided to have their head shaved, all for a lovely cause. It's to raise awareness and money for the Little M Foundation. And so well done to Brent Kite and Joe Nullavow. Kieran Foran was there, Vic Morrow, Michael Oldfield, William Hopewadi and Anthony Watmo. No Des Hasler, incidentally. Desi, where were you? Have you ever got rid of your hair?
Yeah, several times, mate. Yeah, a couple of times for charity, shave for a cure and various other things. So it's not all pride and joy.
It's a nice thing to do, though, isn't it? Relatively simple thing, but someone who loves long hair.
It grows back, unless you're Luke Burt. Doesn't it?
Well, it's good when you played many years of football and you get a shaved down head and they say, what have you been in a car accident or something?